we were just asking if we were gonna ask for input by email, if we needed to have something or somewhere to send it to. Yeah,
Visit.
we don't have to, but, or is there some city that's what we had, and I don't know the answer to that, but if we're going to ask for input from citizens, and you can email us or contact us via email, where do they do that? That was my question. We kind of left that unanswered, and so I don't know.
Like that area, how you make them okay.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, and I don't know if we need one, but again, if we're gonna, you don't have a contact us at Clinton City Hall or something. Well, that'd be the best spot, and that's okay as long as we had talked about it real briefly the other day, whether that was something worthwhile or not. And if you're going to go out and ask for people to send you, if they have input, where do we tell them to send it if they want to send it in?
My daughter gave me air flare. Anywhere in the continent, me and wife were looking.
Well, that's true. I mean,
Because I've been
and they,
there. Okay, never mind.
Did we get what, Joe in?
You know,
Is
but we never made it.
has Joe tried to sign in yet?
During that summer, she was getting married.
Oh, he's there, okay.
So we used air flare to go to California.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Joe, can you hear us online?
Joe, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
We
I
can.
got you.
All right.
Good. And what is it? Buttons forward. Because yes, I see a shaking head back in the booth. Thanks, Stephen. 5 or 4 o'clock, we will call this meeting to order. I guess the first thing on the agenda is roll call. Do you want to do that, or do you want me to, can you take your notes?
Sure.
Okay, since you're the,
Yeah.
Sean is the official secretary.
All right, Eisman.
Yes.
Poinkus.
Oh,
Online, yeah.
he is
Are you
online.
on?
We heard him.
Sorry, Joe, you're on, right?
I'm here.
All right,
Right.
I'm here. Brish,
Yes.
Veenstra,
Present.
Phelan. Yes. Vickers,
Yes.
George.
Here.
We got alternate Hanson here, and Ms. Shevitz.
Yep.
Yeah, Kenny
Perfect.
was gonna be here. I talked to him or sent a couple emails, so I'm surprised he's not here. He may come in yet, so. The next, you all got the draft of the minutes from the March 13th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Second?
Motion and a second. Are we gonna do actual roll all the way, or are we just gonna do all in favor?
For that.
I would think that would be sufficient, right? All in favor?
Aye.
I suppose you could call.
Aye.
Yeah. Okay, we have a couple of notes here. I'll let you take off first. You want to talk about the alternates, because just so we all have an understanding, I think we kind of got a little, just, we don't want us off the rails, but just make sure we all understand
Sure.
what the rules are.
So this committee is the only committee that has alternates on it, and the reason we did that was because of the timeline and what it takes to, I guess, approve someone to be officially on a committee. So we have 9 members that are voting members of the committee. We have 2 alternates. The 2 alternates are allowed to participate in all discussions. We encourage them to be involved in all of that as they're going through, doing research, everything. They just can't vote on any motions or seconds that come through here, right? So if for some reason a primary member, one of the 9, cannot fulfill their duty, say they resign, or we do have a process if someone's not showing up to meetings, we do have a process in our code already that we can remove them from there. So if one of those scenarios comes, we would follow the normal process that we do for appointment. I would choose one of the alternates to recommend to council. We put it on the next council meeting, and then the council would either approve or not approve that person. Everybody's been vetted already. It's a faster process to get someone in there. I just didn't want to slow it up timeline-wise. Since there's that 12-month timeline. So we'll just use the normal city code process for an appointment for any reason if we would have to do that. So, any questions on that? Pretty simple. Cool. All right.
Okay, a couple of notes that I put together. I always don't like to go back and revisit, but I think this is worth our discussion. Last meeting, we had the discussion of trying to be completed so it would get to the November ballot. Since that time, just so you get a timeline, September, because we didn't know the date, September 19th is the deadline to get, would be to get it onto the ballot. We backed that up. That means the council would have to approve it at the latest at their business meeting on September 17th, which means that technically somewhere, there could be special meetings, but it wouldn't push it back significantly, which would means that this committee would have to be ready to submit a presentation to the council at the September 3rd meeting, which then means we would have to be completed sometime in mid-August, maybe earlier, depending upon how we want to approach it and, further legal reviews or any things like that. So sometime in August, early to mid-August, we would have to be done. So keep that in mind. I'm going to submit another idea, and then we can all discuss it, because I think it's important. So we set off on the right foot. And part of this comes from Ryan and I had a chance to visit with an individual who has chaired the Iowa City Review Commission twice. He's been on the council, he's been the mayor, so he kind of gave us some, what I think was good insight. And after doing some of that and some further thinking about this, I think I would propose that we go ahead without a specific deadline. And then we'll meet on a regular basis when we feel we're done and we've gone through everything we want to go through and discuss everything we want to discuss. We're done and we're ready to submit that to the council. Just make sure we have time for debate and don't get hung up in rushing things. So if we're done in time for the November ballot, great. If we carry over onto that, that's fine, whatever. My goal is to then, as part of that process, to have a formal vote after each section. We kind of weren't thinking of that, but I think that's a better plan. So each section, when we get through with the preamble, we'd have a vote on whether we keep the same or change it. There's a vote. We can have discussion, we can have debate. When we're done, if everybody gets a chance to vote yes or no on that change. My hope then at the end, we would then have a vote on the entire package at the end, and that entire package would be something that we're all proud of, that we can all support at the end. You maybe not support, maybe there's one or changes, maybe you didn't, but in the end, the overall package that you can support and will support when we get to the end. We include a couple of public comment sessions. I would anticipate those more towards the end. We can do it other times, but that's kind of what it is. Council members, mayor, et cetera, can present their ideas, their information, their comments via public comment, via email, via letter, however they want. But we won't have a specific session with the council members or the mayor or the city administrator. Our committee will go that way. We talked about doing something different, but I think that's the way we can do it. I think, and I had to go back and look, but I believe once we're completed, if we don't get the November ballot, I think the council can still approve it as ordinance amendments if they so choose. That would be up to them. Our job is to get a report that we're proud of, that we are happy with, and present it to the council. It's then their job to do whatever, in a sense, hey, say, but our work is over, our fun is over when we submit it to the council. Then it's theirs to do whatever they deem fit. That's, I said also, when we get through with each section, go back, that's why we have a vote. We can do that a couple of ways. We can, if everybody's happy, if you want to think of the week, we can take, we can do it if you're ready to vote on a section, great. If you want to think about it, we can do that, vote the next week first thing, and then go on to the next section. We do have, once we do a section, the idea is we'll send that section to the city legal counsel. Make sure, did we do something that we can't do? Do we make a change we're not allowed to? So we'll kind of hopefully get a kind of a running legal okay as we go, so we don't get to the end and find out something we did 2 months ago was wrong. So that's kind of the hope, that's kind of the plan that I would put on the table. You're free to discuss. You can raise your hand, you can speak up, you can do, however, that's the proposal I would put forward. It's a little different idea than we talked about at the first meeting, because we were focused on getting done before the election. And I think we're better served if we get done, fine, but not put an artificial deadline on it that we don't have to.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Dave. I don't think there should be kind of almost an arbitrary, random deadline set up. When this was created, they had the idea of a year, probably understanding how much, we're going to have to talk about and figure out. And so, yeah, I think my mindset will be, the only deadline will be that 12 months.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So maybe I missed something, each section, we vote on it? right?
Yes. When we get through with this section,
Right,
we'll,
so let's say the preamble today,
right,
all right, and it's majority rule,
majority rule.
okay. So one of the members here could vote no on every single thing all the way through,
That is correct.
okay.
That's part of having a chance to have some debate over each one. If there's something you want to propose, you got a chance to convince, 4 or 5 other members to join, that it's a good cause, and it'll go forward. If you don't, then if the majority votes the other way, says, hopefully somebody who wanted something and doesn't get it, or vice versa, that they've had a chance for good discussion, everybody's had a chance for input, so everybody's happy with the chance to make their case. And that's why I'm hoping in the end, I anticipate at the end, I expect at the end that everybody can vote for the package at the end.
I like this format a lot. We're using it at the county level as far as rewriting an ordinance. And everybody then gets the opportunity to give input about each specific section. And it gets bigger buy-in for the final picture as far as, I may not agree with all of it, but I can get on board with most of it. And I think that we'll have a better result in the end. I also agree that no deadline would be best, and just let it organically unfold how it is. I mean, sometimes you get surprised in these situations that you have more common goals than disagreements about things, and things move along quicker. And then there are instances where we might all disagree on everything, and it's going to take a little longer. So I like that plan.
We don't know where it's going to go.
Correct.
And I think that's where,
Hey, one question,
yes, Joe?
sorry, one question from my end. So when you're talking about maybe some simple sections, like the first section we're gonna go through, it's not real long, don't expect a whole lot of things to change. That's an easy one that everybody votes at the end. If we get into some more complicated sections where perhaps there's a bit of debate and discussion, and we need some time to kind of think about it or see it all in black and white, because we may propose a number of different changes. it could be a situation where we might want to sleep on it, or kind of think about it, look at it in black and white after it's been kind of edited. How do we go forward with something like that? I agree with everything you've said, but
Joe,
but
that's
one
easy.
point.
We just say, part of the vision I think I have says if we get to a section and we kind of get through, but we want to take it and we're not, everybody wants to say, okay, I want to think about this. When we come back at the next meeting, one of the first things on the agenda will be voting on that section. If we get done with something and everybody feels comfortable voting at that meeting, fine. If we need to, people, like you said, want to think about it, then we put it on, we put the vote on to the next meeting. So there's no absolute, we're going to vote, at each meeting. So if does that help answer your question? There's no problem
Yeah,
in, there's
I'm
no problem
good.
in carrying
Yeah,
that
I'm good
over.
with that.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Well, it's probably included in what you said, Dave, but part of that is also research.
Yeah, somebody may
See
want-
what else is out there. I've looked at, I presume we all have looked at the 5 charters for the home rule cities in Iowa, but there's also other cities that we ought to consider looking at the form of government. And so I think, there's simple sections, like you said, the preamble, we probably don't need to spend a whole lot of time on that. But we might get into, when the referendum and initiatives thing, it might be a little more complicated.
And that's why I think we can adjust to how much time we spend on a section as we go. There's no, that's why I think it's good to not have that deadline, like you feel like, I didn't count the days, but to make the November election, you probably have about, 5 or 6 meetings, and you'd have to cover more than one section at each meeting to make that deadline, and that doesn't allow for the debate, I think, that we feel like we should have, or people may want to have, and we want to make sure everybody has a chance to make their discussion.
I think it's helpful to know what we're going to discuss the next time, to do research, because I'm big on that I want to be prepared for the conversation. And then you can write down any of your questions, concerns, your ideas ahead of time, and go from there.
And I think one of the ideas, for example, when we get done, and it's a little bit on the agenda, but I think we can be a little better at it, that when we get to the end of the meeting, we can discuss, okay, the next meeting is going to cover this, and we'll go, so then you'll know ahead of time what's going to be the first things on the agenda. The idea is there may be more on the agenda than we will actually discuss, but we'll put them on there as a just in case. So if we have time, we can start touching on some other things, but we'll know at the end of today what will be the 1 or 2 sections we're going to focus on next meeting. Does that help answer your question, Aaron? Is that, that's what you're thinking?
Sorry, not used to having to turn that on. I just agree that I think it's good to know what's coming and to have a plan, and that it gives everybody the opportunity. It's going to be extremely important that we all do our homework ahead of time in order to move this process along, whether it be for a year or 6 months or whatever. We've got to be prepared and know what we're going to talk about.
Before we go too much further, we need to decide how often we're meeting and when we're meeting.
I have a plan for that at the end. I'll put it on the table, but we'll wait till the end, because.
Well, we need to have enough time to make sure we're all on board, so.
Well, if you want to know what I would put on the table, one of the ideas, because I gathered some comments, some input, that to start with, I would propose, and this, again, you look at all your calendars, the first and third Wednesdays, which through, basically through June, and then we'll see where we can go from there. That's April 16th, May 7th, May 21st, June 4th, and June 18th. And then towards the June, we can say the first and third Wednesdays work great, we'll continue with that. gives us a chance if we get. I was thinking 4 o'clock, if that seems to work. Do you want 5 o'clock? Do you want noon? I think 4 o'clock is what I was thinking, is that seems to kind of be a good time frame. I don't know how some of that fits for whatever you all have. You guys are, I'm open to suggestions, but that's just something that, I know Tuesdays and Thursdays mentioned is not a good day. I was trying to keep it off of council meeting weeks and council meeting nights, so that if we had to get a city staff in here, we'll talk about that, I jump back and forth. If we do have some legal questions, we mentioned some of that, we can get O'Connell on remote to spend 10 or 15 minutes and then tell him to go home. If we have some specific questions we need to address before we get, too far on a specific time or specific topic. We'll see how that goes, but we can work on that if we need to. But
I can make that work.
do those dates for 4 o'clock work for
What was the June one?
April 16th, April 16th, May 7th, May 21st, June 4th, June 18th? At 4 o'clock work?
June 18th, I will be out of town, but, there's gonna be
You can
time.
join- Well, I know one of those dates I'm out of town, but then
I can
Ryan can run the
probably,
show.
I can
Date? 'Cause
probably,
The ones in April, 16th, I'm on call, but the other ones I'm not. It's not the
May
16th, is it?
21st, I know I'm going to be out of
Yeah,
town.
I'm-
I may be
I'll be in
able to
town.
join remotely,
Yeah,
but I won't be.
Yeah.
I'll
Do
be
you
out of
need
town.
would you like a motion? I would say,
Yeah.
does the 4 o'clock work for everybody, or would you prefer earlier? Like,
Good with me, but.
For me, like visitations start at 4, so I can,
So if we did-
I can be over here in 10 minutes, so like, I usually will be relieved by 4 to come here by 4, so I
Okay.
can be here at 4.
yeah, I can
I
too.
could probably even, we could do even 3 o'clock if that worked, if it was better.
3 o'clock would be difficult for me if I have something, because then that's 3 to 4 is where I'm gonna be kind
Gotcha.
of tied up.
Okay.
And we have to publish the time, 24 hours in advance?
24 hours.
Yeah.
I will know a day or two before
Yeah.
if that works, so if we wanna do it at 3, I will have a better handle, but I don't want it to be about my schedule either.
Guys,
I think the other thing too is we gotta figure out, like, we'll know as we're getting through this, how slow the process is, and I think we're
That's
gonna,
why I said, I only wanted to set up through June, just to give us enough time, enough meetings to kind of get a feel for how things were going and what time worked.
but Dave, I also think that the public needs to know, even though we approve it kind of like in committee per se, initially, it still can be edited before the final approval. I just wanna make sure everybody knows, just because the public wise, just because we approve it kind of right now, doesn't mean it's set in stone.
No.
Until
I
we
agree with you.
approve that, because there could be something that
Something
someone's
comes up.
not paying attention until June, like, hey, why didn't you think about this?
Yeah,
The other thing too, and when we talked, Dave, I don't know if you were gonna touch on it, but the way Iowa City did it is that it passed unanimously through the committee, and the city council passed it unanimously, and then the taxpayers didn't have to pay for a special election. And my idea, as a taxpayer, if we're unanimous in this, I would hate to see the taxpayers have to pay for a special election that's gonna get probably little traction. It just seems like a waste of money. So I would encourage, when we present it to the council, that we encourage them to pass it and not, because there's plenty of time for people to come and talk about what's their concerns. And I don't know what that number is. I'm sure it's north of $5,000, which isn't a big deal, but it's still,
Yeah.
it's
But
still
it adds up,
5,000.
like, I think this calendar year, we've already had 3, and we have another one
There you go. Yeah.
scheduled. So it adds up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
and when
not the
you get
county pays
very-
it, the city pays
Yeah.
for it, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
This down.
yes.
And I would assume it'd be facilitated by the county. I
Right.
don't know. But it's a lot to do, and you don't get very much participation in a special election unless it was then on the general November, which we
Yeah.
have discussed that
Yeah.
as well.
So I just want to make sure I express that feeling that I really would prefer not be voted on. I think that's what, save the taxpayers money.
Do we want a motion
I-
for 4 o'clock? Do
I'd
we
like
want-
to, honestly,
What was
would
it?
like to see 3
o'clock?
o'clock, and then if we could change, if we had to change for specific reason, then we.
That
could
works
do
for
Yeah,
me,
we
Sean.
I would second
Guys,
the 3
guys, I'd
o'clock.
like to just make a comment. My schedule's nuts, and there's like no way in hell I'm gonna be able to make 3. I mean, 4 is gonna be, I think I pull that off, but 3 o'clock is just gonna be really difficult.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but
That's- Well, no, we want all,
Yeah.
we want all input so we can, it's hard to come up with the magic time, but,
Well, the other thing is we can figure out how we're moving along, and as we get closer to 2 months from now, like, we need to get another hour in each day, then maybe we tack it on here, you know. I don't know how fast this is gonna go. I mean, we'll find out here pretty quick.
find out, yeah.
I'm flexible with either time.
But I'd like it to be done by 5, I think.
Yeah, I
That's
think that's,
appropriate.
should we, is 4 o'clock impossible?
No, I
Is
can,
4 o'clock impossible on the first Wednesday, at least through June, and then we'll,
not to
a
show my,
motion would be good, and then we can have it in the book.
So I would like to make a motion that we meet on the first and third Wednesdays at 4 o'clock, starting April 13th through June
April 16th.
16th through June.
Second.
Second.
Wait a minute.
Who had the second?
Ryan,
got it
Mr.
first.
Veenstra.
All right.
All right. Roll call vote. We'll do this official, or do you want to, we'll just do a voice vote?
Voice vote.
Let's just,
All-
let's just.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Unanimously approved.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Almost, I said, I'm not done yet. And made note on the agenda. Again, some of this is thinking back to what was discussed. And the question was raised, and we did all this, so this may answer the question. Do we need a home rule charter? And that question was raised at the first meeting. And do we want to discuss that point further or not? Because if that's a point of discussion, maybe some of our previous discussions just went out the window. But if there's the idea that we should just, which can be done. I think Matt mentioned pretty much everything's in the charter is in the city code. And the state law now allows initiative and referendum. I believe when they started the home rule charter, initiative and referendum was not in the city code. So pretty much everything here is covered. The question was raised, do we need it? Rich?
Dave, I don't know whether we really need it or not, but I would say the optics of getting rid of it are not good. Somehow, if I just see in the Clinton Herald that the city's getting rid of the home rule charter, I would get my interest up for sure. And I don't see any negative to having it. There are, obviously only 5 municipalities in the state have it. And the original intent was to provide for more open government, but that has been resolved through ordinances almost throughout the state, from what I can tell. But I don't think getting rid of it is, I don't know, I just don't think it's a good optic.
I appreciate it. That's why I bring it up, just because it was a question raised. I want to make sure everybody, I always hate somebody coming back a couple of weeks later saying, how come we didn't discuss this? So,
Maybe I was distracted, but I don't remember that question being raised. And
it wasn't raised highly as a high priority, but the question is always out there.
well, all I can say is that I have not, in the 25-plus years that I've been semi-engaged in things in the community, I have never heard somebody say, we need to dump this home rule charter thing. I've not heard that sentiment expressed whatsoever, so I think we review the charter because that's what we've been asked to do. And if at some point in time, an alternative opinion regarding that comes up, great, that would be something for that group of people to pursue. But our task is to review the home rule charter, and I think it is implied that we're going to continue to have said charter.
I would agree, and I also, I mean, it's not costing us anything, is it?
No,
Okay, yeah, I say keep it.
somebody's mic isn't on. I see is the pink sign, somebody's mic's not on?
You got a red light.
I don't have a red light.
No, that button's forward.
Yeah. Better get the IT department on the red light.
Silky.
And that's fine, we can move ahead. I just want to make sure that point was at least on the table. So that means now we can move ahead to items 4 through whatever. So now I guess we got the mayor. One thing we talked about is, and this will become more important, I think, as we go along, a document that shows us what's changed, what's being proposed, that we can see as we're talking. So we can actually see the verbiage.
Is that your function? Is that what you're doing? Yep. So you're the city staff member assigned to the committee? I like how that works.
He got promoted.
Yeah. Matt had a conference call he had to go on to, right? Is that why he couldn't be here?
Yeah,
So basically, we have this here. It's pretty simple. It's just a Word document. Can't see my thing there. And then we'll be able to go on this. This will be the master copy as far as any changes that need to be made. So we can go in here. You guys can put track changes. I can help whatever we need to do with notes or whatever you want. And then that will be saved, and we can come back to that each time so that we have one master copy instead of 9 or 11 different copies running around.
I got, I was, one of the questions that I was asking Matt, and we didn't have a good, I wasn't clear on what we could do with this. If somebody has ideas that they want to propose, say, at the next meeting, can those be emailed to somebody to put them in the document? Highlighted that this is Bill's suggestion, this is, Sean's suggestion for a particular section, so we already have it in there, so we can see it in writing, and we can add them as we go. How would that work? Or you just want to write them in as we discuss them? Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
I would refrain from changing this document and putting suggestions in there, because I think
Okay.
that will it could get really hard to understand what's in there.
Okay.
I think we would probably want to, we can, if someone has suggestions and it's an email form, we can email it out to the entire committee. You just can't reply all and have a discussion on it,
yeah.
right? So if you had some points that you wanted for the preamble, we could send that out to everybody and say, these are the points I'd like to discuss or that. I think we'd be okay there. Other than that, you would want to just bring them to the meeting and openly
Yeah.
discuss them, which is probably the safer way to do it,
That's probably
as far as with
right.
open meetings laws and things.
Yeah.
But I think.
And if you bring it on paper and we can pass it around,
Yeah,
or.
we can make copies, we can do
Yeah.
whatever. I think that's probably the safest way to do it, even though you can email it. It just keeps that potential open meeting violation
Okay, yeah,
out of there. But yeah, I think we would just type in whatever changes we need as we're here, and I
Okay.
can help with that.
That's fine. I wasn't sure how this worked. I did a little research on this, the tracking changes document, and so,
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing I think is we're gonna be looking at, I know, the intention is to try to vote a section or two forward, but, to, I think somebody else's point, being able to sleep on it, I think Joe maybe said that, and you're basically presenting a draft at the very
Okay.
next meeting
Yeah.
to adopt. Like, we'll be able to capture, the discussions, the changes, and then say, all right, the very next meeting, how does this look for this draft to go ahead and adopt that we discussed? Is everybody okay with that? Like, oh, no, I actually wanted this verbiage little bit different.
I agree, so then the
Yeah.
changes we discussed like tonight could be then in a different color or highlighted
Yeah.
for next time. This is what we discussed, is there anything else you'd like
Yeah.
to add,
Or
subtract?
can we even,
That's
can
what
we
the track
capture that,
changes will
right?
do.
That was my question. How are we gonna know? And not that
So-
not that you would mess it up,
So-
artificially, but how would we make sure that it's legitimate? That's what we talked about.
Yeah, so you just, I mean, if you delete stuff, or add stuff in here, it'll show up on the side, it'll show all
Okay.
the changes that are made. And you can change it multiple times or whatever you need, and you'll clearly be able to see, because it leaves, like, if I go in here and I,
It's like, say we change the name, We the People of Clinton instead of Citizens, what would happen there if
well,
we?
look at, right there, like, you can see it on there.
Strike out
strikes
the
it.
deletion and
It strikes it
underlines
out.
the inserts.
It strikes it out, and then it puts the other
Oh,
word
okay.
there, right?
Cool.
So,
So we can see what we
you'll see
strike
what
out,
you-
we can
you
see
got
what
rid
we've
of and what you
added.
didn't. Yep.
And
Yes.
Scott, is there a way to, for example, since I got, if you want me to be the one to make, because I know I have these, or Lisa, Chris, say for example, we do the, make some change, we use the preamble because that's what's on here.
Yep.
That after the meeting, sometime in the next days, it wouldn't have to be like tomorrow, can you either email me that section and I can mail it out to everybody, or somehow get it to the, so, that, you know, so if you want to think on and sleep on, you'll have an email copy of the proposal to read and to trying to remember what did we say.
Yep.
Can we do that, just copy that onto some other, can we do that somehow?
That information can be shared with everyone without discussion, and you are in no violation of
Yeah, I know.
open meeting.
I-
Yes.
Yeah, you could just to share that,
Yeah, any changes that you make, we want to get them in there as quickly as possible and get it sent out to everybody so they have time to look at it before the next meeting and.
because there could be, as I said, if
Yeah.
people want to think about it, that's,
Yeah.
they need to be able to see what.
Yep.
So Dave, just to clarify, I think what I'm hearing us say is that we'll make the changes today, say in the preamble. I'm not saying we'll finish it, but we probably will. And then we won't vote on it until the next time.
I thought about voting at the meeting, but I think it's better maybe to give.
And then
people a
we'd go on
chance
to the next section right after that.
Then.
I think that's a
We'll
good
put that the
pers-
first thing on the agenda.
Well, and I will
For the-
say, it could be that maybe through your research of other forms of government and you have another suggestion that isn't on my radar, I would like the opportunity then to look into that prior to voting.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
And I think the intention initially was to keep each section on the agenda regardless.
Regardless.
That
so
way,
We can
you know,
discuss it.
if it does impact, you know, section previously that we already adopted, we've got the flexibility without having to, you know, well, we
No,
can't
no,
talk
no.
about that today,
No,
sorry,
I-
guys, you know.
Yeah, I
but
think
we've got the
that-
flexibility to look over that
Well, because
section.
it does refer back to things throughout,
Yeah,
yes.
sometimes, yeah. We didn't put too much on this one simply because we knew we had some other things to discuss, to make sure we all got off, I guess, in the right, everybody was on the right path and everybody agreed to the path. So we all had everything together.
One thing I think is a little bit, you know, with not a permanent staff member here, or even a, you know, paid, I say paid staff member even, with the exception of Stephen in the booth.
Stephen,
Well, I mean, yeah, with a non-elected staff member, right? Most all the other commissions do have a staff
Yeah.
member representative. So at some point, we're gonna have to have them do some of the heavy lifting, sending out, like, we would get a packet, right? So you should get some kind of a, even if it's, here's sections 2 and 3, that's our packet for the next, you know, agenda. That'll obviously require some of them to review what we've already talked about, take our notes and say, is this draft working, you know, what we
Yeah.
talked about? So then we can see that, and we'll have, you know, just a few sections of a packet to look at.
yeah.
Do we
No,
know
I-
how long the city attorney needs to review the final draft, like, just for that 12-month deadline? Like, does he indicated how long he'll need to review the whole thing?
I don't know that it's been discussed with him.
I would say that as we do the sections and vote on them, they should be sent to him so that we can kind of get ahead of that process, because then we're getting buy-in from him as it goes as well. So things don't pop up
I
at the
think
end and say
that-
legally you
that-
can't do
yeah,
that.
that's kind of the plan,
All
to
of our
send him.
work is
Yes.
like thrown out the window.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the idea, is each section, once it's approved, we'll send it off to.
We
to
can, we
the
can
city.
probably have legal look at it before that next meeting as
Yeah, I
well.
thi- I-
Like, if you made changes to the preamble today, right, and before that next meeting, we could have it to Pat and have him review it before it comes to the next meeting and say, hey, Pat said it was okay, or this is illegal, you can't do that.
Yeah,
2 weeks is,
that should be enough time.
It's,
for little sections.
they're not, yeah.
Yeah. And just so you know, since we talked about that, and we can change, you and I, and maybe Matt need to get together. We talked about that I would send that to him with a copy to Matt so he knows what was going on. But if you want to get involved, that's fine, you know, but,
Just put me on there too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then I'll need a copy of the section from the track change document to be able to send. So there's some maneuver, we'll figure that out.
Like we said at last meeting, this is a learning experience as
Yeah.
well. We've never
Okay.
done this, so we'll figure it
You and
out.
I can figure that out, somehow to get, if you're in charge of this document, to get to me.
If we have to meet after the meeting, you and I, if we have to set a meeting time to
Mm,
go through it and make sure it's good, we can do that.
Yeah,
It's no problem.
okay. Yeah, that's why I said we're kind of, but we've got some good examples, but we're kind of figuring it out as we go. We got all that. I had raised the issue of a point of contact, how much public input we're going to get. I have no idea, maybe none, maybe some, maybe an interest. I have no idea. I don't think, if you all have an idea, let me know.
I
But-
think most of your public input is going to be on social media when somebody that's following it shares something about it, and that will be most of your
That-
input.
And that could be, but sometimes when I don't know who it comes from or why, then
Yep.
I'm not gonna, that's, when I worked, if I got unsigned letters, they went in the garbage can. And that's the way I treated unsigned letters when I was employed.
One of the things we always discuss in government is that it is an obstacle to a lot of people to come to one of these and feel comfortable presenting and talking. They're not comfortable with the process. Sometimes the timing doesn't work, that we need to make it as easy as possible. But I would say the easiest thing to do here so that it's not you or one of us having to field all of these emails is that it just goes to the clerk, the city clerk, and that she can then send it on to all of us.
Or put it in the packet,
Yes.
put it in the packet, and you get it. I'm good with that. We already talked about the legal assistance. We've kind of talked about that some. We talked about having, and all agreed to have a community input time during the meeting. I kind of scanned the verbiage that Iowa City used on theirs, which I thought was kind of good, that we limit the amount of time, and we limit the amount of time per
Is this
speaker.
presented that each week or each meeting we
Each
allow
meeting.
up to that? Okay.
Yes,
For public comment.
for public comment. Obviously, tonight we would have none, but I believe we should have it on the agenda. If there is none, fine, we just don't have to worry about it, but we make it available at every meeting.
One suggestion would be if you want to put that on the agenda, put it the first thing, so then
That-
people know that they're not gonna have to sit and wait for
If
everything
we
else.
all in agreement with the verbiage, I'll,
I don't understand that first sentence.
because when somebody talks at a public comment session, the panel, us, cannot interact with it,
Unless it's on the agenda.
unless it. even
That's
if
not what that
yeah,
If it's on the
if it's on
agenda,
the
you can
agenda,
have a
you-
conversation
Yes,
about
but
it.
usually they wait until that topic comes up on the agenda. If it's something that's not on the agenda, then that's just the verbiage that is required by.
That's a blank, it's an overall statement. I think it should be clarified. It says
Maybe
we
it should
can't-
just say that a discussion is limited to those items on the agenda.
We can fix that up. I
But
agree.
So what I think, so that's during a public comment period, that's not the actual time they can actually have that discussion. And
That's fine,
that's
but that
what,
doesn't
so
say
Pat O'Connell
that.
likes to remind typically the council of that, so like the
We
example
have
tonight.
verbiage for that on our council agenda.
Yeah,
We can
you're
just use
Correct,
that.
and that's
Yeah.
what, I think that's kind of what they were trying to capture.
I like this one because it limited the time and the overall time and the overall amount
But
of
we can
time
add
per
that in there
speaker.
too.
So
We
we'll make
can
a
do the
template.
3-minute, 15-minute.
Yeah.
We can add it to our language and
Yeah,
put it
I
in
just
there.
think it's
That's
good.
fine.
I agree, it says, it should be among the first things after the meeting's called to order. There are organizations that put it at the end of a meeting. I think that discourages comment because you're making somebody sit and wait through an entire meeting,
One
to
thing
make
it
a
might,
comment.
might make it easier as well is if they have public comment of anything that's not on the agenda, Because if it's, are we going to allow, or is it allowed that if a public person is sitting here and they feel very strongly about one aspect of it, are they allowed to come up and interact with us when we discuss that? Because that would be your back and forth discussion, where public comment would be what's not part of our,
I think they are allowed to, but
That
it's
you-
whether or not you want to.
Yeah, the council, they, if it's on the, but
Yeah,
if we put everything
If a commission
on,
member invites them
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
talk and, yeah, give the input.
so maybe it does need to be public comment is just items not on the agenda.
but we're gonna put the, basically all the items on the agenda, so that way we could, so
Yeah.
everything is gonna be on the agenda.
I think we should look at the language Pat's got on our city council agenda and add the time limit and make sure that covers us.
Yeah,
We can work on that.
Yeah, yeah,
The time limit needs to also exist on discussion back and forth.
yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
think
my
that just can
job.
be a standing rule that you follow. The chair can follow that, you know, and in order to keep conversation going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get the old gavel. I got the gavel. Just remember, I got that gavel.
Okay.
So we'll get that figured out. Okay, now we actually can, we got a few minutes to at least start talking. And thank you all. I think it's important to go through some of this. We met, but we kind of, I think, got in a bit of a hurry without, again, walk away and you think about something I wish I would have said and wish we would have done differently. And I think it's worthwhile to make sure that we all get together, so we don't argue about the direction we're heading 2 or 3 weeks, or, 3 or 4 meetings from now, and everybody's mad at me for something. I guess the first item, we have the preamble, and that, I guess, is right there. You've got it, if you have a copy. Preambles, all over the place in what they say, what they mean, how many words. They want to argue over they or them, that's fine. What's anybody's comments about?
Dave,
The preamble, they established what, back in 1986?
I reviewed the preambles of the other cities, and they all say the same thing. Their formats are different, but
Right.
there really isn't, just in those cities, a difference. And Mayor, maybe this is a question for you. Cities that don't have home rule charter, do they have a document like this, or is it just part of city ordinance?
They do not.
Say
And
that
I think,
I was just saying, say Davenport, who does not have home rule charter, do they have a document that would have a preamble in it? I wouldn't think they
I don't
do.
believe so.
I don't think
No.
so.
So, all I'm saying is that in reviewing the other four,
I think the reason there's a preamble is because you can think of a home rule charter as like a local constitution.
Right.
And you have that at the beginning of something like that. So I think that's the format that it's taking on, and that's why it's there.
okay,
I've always been a big fan of less is more, and it struck me that, we have 4 bullet points of why a home rule charter. And in my mind, they were concise, and it kind of set the stage for the rest of the document. So I did not come up with any proposed tweaks for the preamble.
They did a good job back in 1986.
It's cutting your head.
Yeah, or they had a good template, I don't know which, but,
Both.
yeah.
so I would
Anybody?
make a motion that we adopt with the preamble without changes.
I would second that.
I think we should have a roll call vote on these, just so we have a record in the minutes.
That's your choice.
Well, probably trying to think, it's guys, says of 10 years from now, somebody may look back at how we conducted these meetings. And so,
Yeah.
and then also if there's any legal questions, we know we have a roll call vote. So I think when you vote on a section, I think that's deserving of a roll call vote. So I'll put
we
the
had a-
secretary in charge of that.
We had a motion.
We had a
Who
motion
the
to-
motion? It was Rich, right?
Right.
Okay.
And then John seconded.
Okay. So we're just gonna go down with what they had here on the minutes. So Eisman,
Yes.
Oinkes,
Agree.
Connell, agree. Brish,
Yeah, yes.
Veenstra,
Yes.
Balin,
Yes.
Vickers,
Yes,
George,
Yes.
and Mashevitz.
Yes.
yes.
All right.
Okay, do you want to head on to the powers of the city next? And start talking about any changes there? And again, the goal is to get done in generally an hour, give or take, each meeting. So get towards the end, if there's any other comments that we need to wrap, final comments, we'll try to leave a little
I feel like
time.
the preamble and the powers of the city are the two cleanest sections in the whole thing as far
Well,
as.
that's kind of,
We're gonna feel pretty
Yeah.
confident after today. This is easy,
we're gonna think we're
Dave.
just rolling along, this is easy.
Moving right along.
If you've all read that, anything
Just you wait.
You haven't gotten your red pen out yet, have you?
anything there that,
Motion
Jumps
to keep section 2.02 powers of the city as is.
Second.
A second.
Aaron, Aaron, motion, Rich second, roll call vote.
Okay, Eisman,
Aye.
Oinkes,
Aye.
Connell, yes. Brish,
Yes.
That's you.
Yeah, did we already have the discussion, or?
Well, I
Actually,
didn't ask
you
for
read-
that,
you
did
got-
you have a discussion?
We have a
I
motion.
should
If you
go-
have a discussion, it's time for it before we vote.
we can back those up.
Yeah,
Okay, so I was thinking that same thing, that
I guess
should call for further discussion.
yeah, that's my fault.
I know, we were
I-
just jumping the gun,
I-
right?
Jumping the gun.
All right.
Any
Matthew.
discussion? Matt sounded like he had a point he wanted to make.
Yeah, well, he's
Yeah,
the attorney
well,
mind on over there.
Under paragraph one, under construction, it talks about, and this is just, I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but, shall be construed liberally in favor of the city, but, I think it's Iowa Cities that talks more about the power being broad, and the grant of power to the city under this charter is intended to be broad. And I don't know if that's an area that maybe the city attorney kind of needs to look at is, ours, it's a different way to describe the type of powers that it is, whether it's in
Iowa City has
favor of
one
or
sentence.
liberal. Yeah, and intended to be broad. And I'm not sure if I like the Iowa City one better, because it makes it clear, it's more,
Do you all have the Iowa City one in front of you?
I do.
Okay. Do you want me to read the one sentence that's there that
Sure.
he's referring to?
Sure.
Please.
The city has all powers possible under the Constitution and laws of this state. That's what they have for that entire section.
Yeah.
and then under the construction part,
Yep.
at 1.02.
The grant of power to the city under this charter is intended to be broad. The mention of a specific power in this charter is not intended to be a limitation on the general powers conferred in this article. Savings clause. If any provision of this charter or the application of this charter to any person or circumstance is held invalid, the invalidity shall not affect other provisions or applications of this charter.
No, that one's identical.
I'm not an attorney, nor did I sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I don't see much difference between the two. And
Do you see a benefit legally? And I know that's your background, so.
Yeah, and I don't either, John. I just, I guess I didn't want to just approve it without thinking about it, and not us kind of
Sure.
discussing it. And, there might be someone in the public that has an idea on the wording or the city attorney, which is.
well, they can come back to us.
Yeah,
We're-
we can always change stuff later, but.
A wordsmithing shall be construed in a broad manner instead of liberally, if you want. I mean, to me, it's the same, but
Yeah. No, and I'm-
Anybody want to propose a change, or just send it, leave it as it is? I mean, I think.
And I'm good with no changes. I guess I just
Wanted to
wanted
point
to.
out
I would
that,
agree.
Yeah, just.
I
just to
totally-
talk about it. And I wanted to slow it down. We're having too much fun and
Well, I call the
getting it
question.
too easy.
Do I have to start over the roll call?
I'm good with continuing on as
Okay.
long as there was no substantial changes there.
I'm good.
So I'll say yes.
Okay.
And I'll
Get my sheet back out, my
I'll remember to ask for
non-official
discussion,
sheet.
so.
All right, Veenstra,
Aye.
Phelan,
Aye.
Vickers,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
and Mishevitz.
Yes.
I need to get Lisa's like official roll call sheet. She had some,
Scorecard?
yeah, scorecard, I need a scorecard.
Yeah.
See if I can have one made for you.
Yeah.
24-pound paper, a little heavier.
That's basically, well, actually, our timing is not bad. The next month, we had, looking at a number, the city council for the next meeting, we'll send the preamble and I can't imagine there's a problem with powers, that there's any problem with those, but we'll just, yeah, we'll just double check with that, just to make, you know, to make sure we don't mess something up. The city council would be our next topic for the next meeting. That will be our highlight topic.
It'll
And,
be a more meaty discussion.
yeah,
I will also point out that the Home Rule Charter Guide that was emailed to us, in there, as far as homework for this next section, it has the breakdown of forms that are permissible.
Right.
if somebody wants to bring
Yeah.
up that issue, that's, you know.
So that's
that-
something to look at, that it will tell you what ours currently is, and then it tells you what our options are if we were to change it.
Yeah. And the question came up, and not to jump, not that we would, but if there would happen to be any changes, I believe it's spelled out in code how that transition would be implemented,
Yes.
whether, if there happens to be a change. So that, I know that's a question. The other thing that I don't know, and I can talk to Scott, maybe throw it up to Matt and Pat. One of the things that could come up is if there are legal questions maybe outside of, in addition to not just getting a review of what we've done, of including those to the city legal counsel. So if you do have something that doesn't quite fit, and I can't think what that might be right now, that maybe we could try to get an answer to that before we get to the meeting. I know one, looking through some minutes of other places, somebody asked, are recall elections allowed in the state of Iowa? And the answer, I think the answer was no from the, you know, basically. So if there's something that comes up that you might want to think about, I'd raise this question, might save us a little time. We'll see how that goes. There may be none.
Well-
This table also references back to the code sections that, I mean, reading Iowa code is no fun and can get very overwhelming, but it is on there.
And be like Mayor says, since we try to keep it now, we've gotten done, we know what the next section is. Looking at that, we'll put other sections on the agenda. But looking at that section, it may be most of the meeting. So we'll.
If not more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe the county wants to consolidate them.
Nope, that is not an option I'm looking at.
Just save the
Nope,
taxpayers
nope.
the budget money.
Yeah.
I just skipped right over that one when I saw that option.
Your eyes glazed over and says, not me, huh?
I won't even go there, because that's been a hot point with me at state government level.
And I guess maybe we should try to remember, and if I remember, anybody got any comments, questions, before we
just setting up the discussion for next time, I think we need to be open to change. I mean, just because we have 7 now doesn't mean we need 7. Maybe we need 9, maybe we need 5. I don't know what the right answer is. The other question is, do we have wards or do we have everybody at large?
Well, and did you know, I mean, I'm sure you did, but going through it as well, I don't know if everybody else read all of them. I read everything and all of them again today, and whether or not you want a voting mayor,
Right,
things of that nature.
yep. So it's going to be a good discussion.
And that meeting will be whatever it was, the 16th. I figured since the first Wednesday is actually tomorrow, we didn't want to come back and do it tomorrow, so.
Darn, we aren't gonna make the 24-hour notice of posting, so it looks like we'll have to
Huh?
look at the following week, or the following time.
Yeah. I believe that's what, the 16th? So,
Yes.
if all agreed, the 16th, 4 o'clock, here. IT staff person, Mayor Scott Madison, will put
Yeah,
that
I
on
just
his
moved that,
calendar.
Earlier, since we I just said we moved ahead to that item quick, just to knock that out of the way.
Oh, time, yeah,
so-
that's fine.
Because since we had a motion and a second on it.
Oh, the powers of this, oh, the time, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was on the, that was on the agenda, so, the meeting schedule
Otherwise,
somewhere.
I can't
It was
be
actually
there.
the last item on the agenda.
I need to get some.
They wanted ahead of time, so I was ready for the last item
Dividers.
on the agenda, so. With that, meeting adjourned.
Look at that.
Excellent, all right.
So 16.